Hello and welcome to another episode of the Executive Hub Show, the show that helps you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs. My guest today is Bobby Steinbach. Welcome, Bobby.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mustafa.
Great to see you. And we're talking about growing a legal brand from the ground up. Uh, Bobby, whereabout are you?
I am like suburb of New York, Westchester, for anybody who knows it.
Beautiful. And what's it like out there today?
Cold. It's pretty cold.
Oh, yeah,
We have
fantastic.
a day
Have
of
you guys
warm.
had a
It's no good.
cold winter this year?
For me, it is. I was in Florida last year for the winter, so
Oh
everything
yeah.
was cold for
That's
me.
a big difference.
Yep.
Fantastic. So, Bobby, let's get into it. What is your story?
So my story. I graduated Northeastern in 2013 with a computer science degree, and pretty much knew I wanted to be startup world. My first job out, I was the first engineer at a startup out in Las Vegas. Basically, we were doing influencer analytics and creating a search engine for brands to match with influencers before it was cool. That business, I'm still very close with the founders. It's called The Shelf. They pivoted to become an agency, but I got a lot of exposure to like what it's like working at a startup, what it's like creating solutions to problems you never knew you'd face, or like maybe some people have never faced them before. So super interesting, really kicked me off. From there, I came back to New York, where I was the first engineer at a ticketing startup. So think a StubHub competitor called Ruckus. We grew that to around 30 employees before an exit. And I ended up meeting my future co founder there, Andrew. So from there, we ended up jumping to Morgan & Morgan, the largest personal injury law firm in the country for those in the States. And we were basically pulled in to transform basically the digital face of the firm. So I was brought in as director of engineering. Andrew was brought in as director of paid digital advertising, and we headed those departments at Morgan & Morgan for the time period from like 2016 till 2020. And then we ended up spinning up MeanPug together. So in 2020, we launched MeanPug as a full service solution for law firms who didn't necessarily have the budget of a Morgan & Morgan, but wanted to compete in a competitive landscape.
Fantastic. So, what's the story behind the name MeanPug?
I always tell everybody, like, it's like if you have a scar on your arm and somebody asks you at the bar, like, "Hey, do you get that scar?" And you got it, like falling off your bike, but you want to be like, "I was in a knife fight." That's pretty similar to how we came up with MeanPug. Um, we have been in the scenario everyone probably has where you're just like, I want to start working. I don't want to think about a name anymore. I just want to like take this thing off. So we were at that point, probably 2 days into the name process, and we got to the point where we just started basically throwing things at the wall. We liked Mailchimp. We liked like the animal type of branding and the fun messaging. And I had a pug, so we started trying to find like that magic combination of what is kind of funny before pug exists as a domain. Like we could buy the domain and it's catchy. And MeanPug was where we landed.
Love it. So, it's who do you serve now, and what do you do for them?
So we are strictly focused on legal. We service law firms of all shapes and sizes, whether you're a solo, like building your brand from the ground up, or you are a multi-state PI firm that has or multi-practice firm. We do everything from branding to web design and development, PPC, SEO, video production, social media, traditional media, so TV, radio, billboard, strategic consulting. We really just want to be like that true partner to the clients that we work with.
Fantastic. And so, why did you guys decide to focus on law firms specifically?
Uh, Number one, it's what we know, right? We came from doing this at Morgan and Morgan, so we have exposure to the industry. We understand the players. We understand like the consumer life cycle, and it's not It's not one of those things that is easily taught. So there's like a natural barrier to entry getting into it. So that's one. And two, I think like the law firms tend to be in well, if you are a PI firm, you're in a situation where you have capital that you know you need to spend, and there's a lot of competition. So that is like a nice place to live if you're a marketing agency. If you're not a PI firm, if you're a transactional firm or a criminal defense firm or whatever, you still need to compete. The budgets tend to be smaller, but like at that point, why not law, right? So there's a couple answers depending on the practice area and the venue.
God, are there any types of law firms that you guys work with, or as long as they practice law, you guys would serve them?
No, we work with everyone from IP lawyers to run of the mill PI firms,
What does PI stand for?
personal injury.
Personal injury. Okay, yeah, yeah, fantastic. So what kind of problems these guys typically come to you guys with, and how do you solve them?
The easy answer to that is cases. Everybody wants more cases. Uh,
Okay,
the the difficulty is in the how to that question. So the way we like to look at this problem is we analogize it to having an investment portfolio. You wouldn't go all in on stocks, probably, if you're trying to keep a balanced portfolio. You wouldn't go all in on bonds. You'd go for like a well balanced portfolio that hits your time horizons and risk thresholds. So, what does that mean in terms of marketing? It means that you've got a balance of brand and SEO. Those two things may or may not, be tightly coupled. That's not going to show immediate return, but over time, you'll reap dividend from growing your brand. But we put that in like the 12 plus month time horizon. Short term, you've got your like paid channels. So PPC, paid social, whatever it may be. That's like short term case acquisition. Now let's figure out like the balance in your portfolio between brand SEO and short term case acquisition to meet immediate, you know, uh, revenue goals.
fantastic, fantastic. Let's talk about like a case study, if you will, of a client that you work with. Give us an example of a client. How did you find them, and what was the challenge they were having?
Couple come to mind. I'll start with like a solo that we helped launch his firm about 2.5 years ago now. So we had a firm come to us in Wisconsin. They practice first party insurance dispute, which is a pretty niche case type. Basically, most personal injury and other, you know, legal like injury cases are third party, where it's not you suing your insurance company. It is you suing like the person who hit you, their insurance company, or it can in some cases be your insurance company suing their. The point is, it's not you suing your insurance company directly. Usually, first party is you suing your insurance company. So
Hmm.
that can happen. Let's say if your roof collapses and you've got a homeowner's policy, but they don't pay out on the roof collapse, right? That might be an instance where you have a first party insurance dispute. So he had a practice that he was like a name partner in, but was branching off and creating his whole new brand. We started with him. I think he found us through direct outreach, which is rare for us. Most of our um, marketing is really inbound. We don't have a sales team. It like 95% of our clients come to us because they heard of us either through our work or they found us on organic, like blog posts were written and whatnot, or they were referred by an existing client. So this was pretty exceptional in that regard. But we ended up onboarding him, built his brand new brand. It's a really out there site. I recommend everybody go take a look at it. Wallace Insurance Law. You can wallaceinsurancelaw.com if you want to visit it. Does not look like most law firm websites you'll see. And today he it's a kind of like bittersweet where he has lowered his retainer with us, but it's for the best possible reason. He's got too much work. So in the span of 2.5 years, he has gone from not having a firm to having more work than he can handle.
Love it. Amazing. Um, What do you guys built your websites on?
We build on WordPress, and I know it has a bad rep, but we have really strict controls over our process. We basically limit our plugin count to under 15. Can't have more than 15 active plugins. So it forces us to cherry pick which ones we want to use on our side, right? We're not going to rebuild a form solution. We've got Gravity Forms for that. But
Yeah,
maybe it makes sense not to have, a plugin that's in charge of embedding Google Analytics when we can just insert a one-liner at the top of the head. So,
100%.
um, yeah, we use WordPress, but it's almost entirely custom code and ACL.
Beautiful. Do you guys have any competition out there that do kind of similar work that you do?
Yeah, it's a pretty congested space, surprisingly. Um, there's probably like a couple of different ways you can cluster our competitors. We've got like the mills, you'll call them. So the folks that have the big agencies in the space that have a ton of clients, some of which may or may not be super happy with the servicing, but they've got a protocol. Every client is going to abide by that protocol, and that's how marketing works. If you're one of their clients, examples would be like FindLaw, Scorpion. Those are probably some of the bigger ones. Then there's like the bigger agencies who are our model, where it is like they believe in high quality work. They've you know created processes and like they're resourcing around that ideal. It is our opinion that it's very hard to be a bigger agency and maintain quality work. We believe there's like a Goldilocks zone, not too little, not too big. If you're a very small agency, you don't have processes yet. You don't yet like you can get a new account and suddenly you don't have the people. So there's big problems at small agency size. Big agency size, very different set of problems. You're gonna if whether you're a round peg or a square peg, you're going to be put into a square hole or a round hole. So, the process drives you, not it doesn't flex to your needs. Um, for us, we're 20 employees, so we're big enough where we have resourcing around every like discrete category, but not too big. So that's kind of how I would group our current
Fantastic. How big is your team right now?
20 employees.
20. And then, so what would you say is make you guys different compared to the rest of the competition out there?
Honestly, I think a big part of it is what I'm saying around this Goldilocks zone. It is a transient time period. I think that at some point we're going to have to ask the tough questions. Are we too big? Do we need to think about like figuring out a different protocol or what have you? But part of it is our size. Part of it is our background. So having done this at the highest level, we really, really understand the space, the players, what works, what doesn't work, and that's pretty key to us. And I think part of it is our mindset. Andrew and I both come from startup roots. We are both technical implementers. If you look around the space, most other founders that are our competition, they are either sales, so they come from a sales background, or they don't understand, like they come from like an enterprise background where maybe they were an implementer but they had infinite budget. Andrew and I understand how to find like that first dollar quickly.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Bobby, what would you say are some of the milestones that you guys have achieved along the way since you started?
Good question. Hiring employees is a huge milestone. You kind of don't understand what running a business is until you have employees, and I don't mean some freelance contractors. I mean people who have like HR issues and, you know, talking about balancing PTO and vacation time and like conflicts between personnel. Until you have that, you don't really understand what business growth looks like. So I think that's one big milestone. Another big milestone would be on like the revenue side, just like breaking six figures and breaking seven figures and then hopefully breaking eight figures. Like that progression is been a big milestone for us. And then like I think on the soft side, figuring out processes and now having like very, very detailed, we use Asana for project management, very, very detailed Asana templates for the discrete workflows that we know we're going to do on a regular basis. So there's no more guessing game there.
Love it. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm a systems guy. I love processes and workflows to make sure that repeating tasks are getting done consistently. So I love and appreciate that. Um, what would you say are some of the challenges that you guys faced while reaching those milestones?
The crunch, like the sales service crunch. So do you focus on sales or do you focus on service as a founder? I think our huge advantage is that we are a like two-person founding team. So we can always on the fly make decisions where I focus on service, Andrew focuses on sales, or vice versa. Most of our competitors are not that. They're single founder. So you kind of have to be one track mind. But that being said, even though there's two of us, it's still a very hard problem, that balancing act.
So is it like one of you guys focuses on service and the other one focuses on sales?
That hasn't really been, that is one way it could work out. And we have done it, but more often than not, it's like 30% of my time might be sales, 70% servicing. Andrew's might be 70% sales, 30% servicing. And then we get to the next week and it flip flops. So
Oh, okay.
that's kind of like more how it tends to work out.
What's your preference to work on, sales or service?
Service.
Fantastic.
I hate sales.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Curious, what would you say is holding you guys or holding you or your business back right now?
Finding like repeatable process for generating sales. We have at this point created like relatively strong inbound streams of leads, but it would be amazing to find outbound strategies that work. That's one on the sales side. On the service side, where a huge product line for us is SEO. So just trying to continuously keep up with the Google beast is a monolith of a challenge.
What's the latest on the SEO with Google and AI?
Yeah, well, as you know, AIO, AI overview has become more and more commonplace. That has definitely become a big point of concern for both our current clients and prospective clients when we're on calls. So, like, not only how do we, get more placement in Google AIO, but also how do we get placement in ChatGPT and other LLM based search and stuff like that. So that that's been one major point of concern. What else? You're always fighting the algorithm. Most recently, Google had a bug on the local side where everybody's review count was wrong. So,
Huh.
like dealing with that pseudo constant headache is a thing. And yeah, luckily, more and more Google's placing a premium on brand. I mean, I say more and more recently, it has historically been Google's like mantra that brands are the answer. So Google does believe in brand, but it's become more and more important as the market has become more and more congested with like AI garbage and other low quality content. Having something differentiated has become like a premium. So that's been great for us since that's really our bread and butter.
Fantastic. Yeah, the landscape is changing with AI and all the different components playing into it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
not knowing you, there's a very good reason to use AI tooling in your processes, and in some cases, to use direct AI output in what's front facing. So, I'm not advocating creating long form blog posts that are written by AI, but I don't think there's nothing wrong with using Midjourney to create an AI image
images.
and
Yeah.
having your design team touch it up to be on brand and posting it on site. But there's kind of been this reactionary swing against all things AI and output that I don't know if it's just in like the marketing side of things where people have this gut reaction AI is bad now in terms of raw output, or if that's translated all the way through to the algorithm. But I don't like that that seesaw effect.
Yeah. I think I mean some of the posts that people out there, it's like super obvious that it's AI, like they don't even bother like touching it up.
Yeah,
But then there's also that fear of the unknown where people say, "Oh, AI is bad," where they don't even know if it's bad or not. And in terms of like SEO,
correct.
and I think we're still in the testing and learning phase with Google and AI and SEO and all that. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right, and but I think people are just kind of like, um, what is it? Drinking the Kool Aid, right? They heard one guy say, "Never use AI as like your output. You know, AI should be a tool, not like your end game." And for the most
Yeah,
part, that's right. But you can also get 95% of the way there with AI output, and then do final touches
yeah,
to make it final output. So you know, I do think there's been this like reactionary swing where people now just say, "Ew, AI, that's like raw AI, it's bad."
yeah. And it's there's so many opinions out there, and another I think surprising thing is like almost overnight everybody turned into AI experts, and now
Yeah,
people are out there, you know, giving definitive opinions on how AI works, where they don't even know what AI is. You can tell.
100%. Yeah, I've seen that too. It's
Yeah,
LinkedIn has become a little bit of a cesspool with that type of rhetoric.
100%. Bobby, who would you say had a major influence on your business journey?
Definitely like the founders that I've worked under. I've been lucky enough to be the first engineer for both startups that I worked in, prior to starting MeanPug, before Morgan. So I got to see like what the decision making process looks like firsthand. Um, so that has probably been the most influential set of people on my background here.
Fantastic. Is there anything that should someone should know about you or your company that typically people don't know?
Yeah, one thing is it's mean pug, one word, not two. Most people do mean space pug. So that's one. It's also camel case, capital M, capital P. Um, what else should people know that they don't typically know? Uh, I think there is a misconception that you need to be specialized and do one aspect of marketing to be good at it. Like people are like, oh, you do both SEO and PPC, you must not be good at SEO. That might be true in some instances, but it also completely ignores the fact that marketing is integrated. So, like, let's say you're running a TV commercial and you've got your branded assets in the TV commercial. You should have a connected digital experience. You should make sure that your creative lines up. But if you don't have the same people doing both, you better make sure you have good mesh that sits between the two teams so that everything lines up. Um, and the same thing goes for PPC. Let's say you're running PPC. You better make sure that your site's fast. You better make sure that you've got good landing pages, right? So the web side plays a heavy role there.
They all have play together.
Everything
Yeah,
plays together. So, you know, what I would say is sometimes you can't be good at everything. And for sure, if you try and do everything all at once, you will fail. But for us, it's taken us 5 years to hire the teams and the right people to sit in each of these positions, and that's why that we're confident in having like this, start to end marketing team.
fantastic. So, in terms of working with clients, what are like the top, say, three things that you guys usually do with clients to kind of fix up and brush up their marketing?
Number one is brand. Like I would say, I was going to say you'd be shocked, but maybe you wouldn't be shocked. There are a huge percentage of firms that have the exact same messaging as their next door neighbor. Where for people who aren't in legal or legal marketing, it might be a little like it might go over their head. But I can't tell you the number of times I've seen like we are passionate advocates for justice, or we, we fight for the underdog. Like that messaging is tired.
Yeah.
So first thing we do is try and figure out how we can differentiate you in your market. Next, a lot of it's technical. Like a lot of firms, they have sites that aren't optimized, really poor design, poor layout, poor content silos, poor everything. So it's refreshing that. And then third is probably looking at offsite. So whether that's like link building or doing things like setting up LSAs, lots of firms still don't have LSAs set up. And
What is that?
local service ads. At one time, I think they were called local search ads, but local service ads. So you always want to really be cutting like tip of the spear when it comes to trying out Google ad formats. You will tend to get better returns because the market won't be as crowded towards the start. Already, we're seeing LSAs kind of diminish on the ROI side, but they're still a great vector for allocating paid spend.
Interesting. So brand technology and their offsite stuff such as link building and local ads, and I'm
Yeah,
guessing probably a bunch of them need to brush up their company listings and directories as well.
yeah. Nap's always
Right?
a concern. But I kind of put Nap in the same category as technical SEO. Like it's a checklist type of thing. You
Yeah.
better do it. But it's table stakes.
What does NAP stand for?
Name, address, phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sometimes you go like to I see a ton say on LinkedIn, like say a lawyer or a doctor's LinkedIn profile is just a name, no picture, nothing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Like these are services where people are hiring a person, and it's at a time in their life where they either have gone through something traumatic or they're trusting you with like a big commitment, whether it's their livelihood or money. So in either scenario, like there's a reason this fits under Google's YMYL category, your money, your life. It can have big impact on you as a person.
Fantastic. Um, Bobby, what would you say? What's a typical day look like for you?
Depends if you catch me on a Monday or a Friday. Um, the like overused answer there is no 2 days are the same. I probably have on average 25 hours or so of meetings a week. So I've got that.
Wow.
I have recently been able to start delegating like a lot of my technical work to my internal dev team. So I don't have as much in the weeds there, but I do look for a lot of opportunities to kind of poke my head out of the weeds and look for opportunities to create kind of like cross account optimizations on the software side. So examples, let here an example, a concrete example we've got a tool we call Gramophone, which is basically just text to speech, AI driven text to speech. So for folks that don't want to read a 2,000 word article on what to do if you've been in a car accident, instead they can listen to it, they can share it, they can do all like the good stuff there. And that's something that we have on our side, like a service that's been built out by MeanPug, so we don't have to rebuild that for every client that comes to us and use their retainer in like a wasteful way. We can just onboard our tool.
Fantastic. Wow, 25 hours of meetings is a lot of meetings every week. That must be exhausting.
That's honestly probably like a low. I mean, towards the end of the month when we have client reporting, I try and join as many of those as I can. That I'm probably on closer to like 33 or 34 hours.
Wow. Interesting. Have you found a way to kind of reduce that time, or is that you have to be there, or is it something like you have to delegate eventually?
I don't have to be there. I like to be there because it's often the only time that, well, the end of the month, it's the only time a lot of the clients see me after the sales process because They've got, our point of contact on our side who's managing their account day to day. So I like kind of having some FaceTime with that client. In terms of like the 25-hour mid-month commitment, I a lot of it, I am not the leader of the meeting. I like to sit on the meeting to see kind of what's being discussed across the team because we're a fully remote team. We're not, we have an office in the city. We use it to film our podcast, Hot Docket, for anybody who wants to check it out. But I'm not seeing, like, a lot of times I can go the whole day without talking to one or two or half my team. So I think there's like value in sitting in on those calls, even if I'm not the one leading it.
Interesting. How do you guys deal with everybody working from home? Some people find it difficult and they're like, we have to be in an office.
I get that. I'm a big believer in like the collisions that happen in office. But there's just like the sacrifice isn't worth it. Like you're there are too many good people out there that you're cutting off by not allowing remote.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some people don't like it. Some people prefer. I know some of the biggest companies, like I think, like WordPress itself is running from home.
Mm.
If I'm not, they don't have an office, and there are a bunch of other bigger companies, that big brands that are running from home.
It
Like they're
makes
not.
sense. It makes a lot of sense, but I like definitely understand the flip side. There's no easy answer to it.
Yeah, I think COVID kind of forced people to learn to work from home, and a bunch of them they're just like, we're not going back to the office.
I mean, yeah, it's a hard sell, right? Like you get to wake up, spend the day in your pajamas. Like you want to like go play with your kid for 5 minutes, you can. So
Yeah,
I don't know. How do you replicate that in like an office setting?
exactly. And some people are. I've seen some companies are still trying hard to like bring people to the office. And my buddies who are like I have a buddy who is an engineer in the oil and gas sector, and he's like I'm telling my manager, like, why do you need me there? Like, I'm getting the job done. What are you trying to prove here?
Right.
And it's like some of them they like to watch people. They're probably just control freaks, and they're like,
But
I
it
need
is
to
what
see
it
you.
is. Like the devil's advocate point there is it's hard to replace like being able to call over your shoulder like, hey, did you take a look at like that thing I sent you yesterday, right? And then the person's like, no, I forgot, let me check it right now. Like that interaction doesn't exist on remote.
Yeah,
Or
that's
like
right.
or like call over your shoulder like, hey, you have a sec to powwow on this idea I had around like improving X problem, right? Yes, you can like start a huddle, but maybe the other person's whatever.
Yeah,
It's not the same. You lose a lot of the spontaneity.
that's right. That's right. Bobby, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice for when you started your business, what would it be?
Mm, don't go too fast. We had probably one of the best like client relationships we could have had in our second year of starting, and we made a big mistake on the account. We lost it, and the reason that happened is because we were trying to do too many things at once. So we kind of ignored the basics, and that cost us that account. So I would say just like be methodical in growth
So you were doing too many things for the customer. You were doing too many things just in general.
in general.
Okay. And it was it like a case where you guys didn't deliver on some of the stuff you were supposed to, and then you lost the customer because you were busy doing other stuff.
No, more like type of mistake.
Oh, okay. Hmm. What do you enjoy most about being a CEO or founder or co-founder of the company?
Mm, I like being able to like see how everything is connected, um, kind of bird's eye down. I always had that problem at more really only at Morgan because at startups, I didn't have this problem. I didn't like feeling like I didn't understand other sides of the business and kind of what happens after, let's say, a intake becomes a client. I didn't like having that loss of visibility. So I like being able to see everything and kind of help systematize things that make everything better. I like getting to like know our clients. A lot of them are pretty amazing, both what their firms do and who they are. So that's been pretty awesome. And then I like building. I think there's something to having like a hybrid model as an agency where you are a like servicing agency, but you've got software enablement. So I really like being able to see all the problems that come up on the agency side and think about how we can solve them with software.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I, eh, the part where you like to get to know clients, I think a lot of agencies and business owner really fall short on that, and they're very far from their clients.
I think it's, yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's because two things. One, most people delegate too early. Like most people think that delegation means not doing things, like they just don't want to do the things they don't want to do. And they think, oh, I don't want to do it, so I'll delegate it. That's not necessarily the right time to delegate, in my opinion. I think the right time to delegate is when you have like when opportunity cost for that thing has surpassed doing the thing that you're giving up, right? So it's like an opportunity cost problem. Talking with clients, it's hard to think like what else you could be doing that has higher value than talking with your clients. Um, so that's one. And I think two is like a lot of conversations with clients are not easy conversations. They're conversations around like underperformance or like managing expectations or whatever. And people don't want to have hard conversations. So it's natural that you try and remove yourself from it.
100%. Yeah, I think they kind of remove themselves from the pain. Um, but I mean, if you do a good job and you're on top of your game, then you don't have a reason to, you know,
Well, inevitably there's going to be like miscommunications and
for sure.
nobody can ever be perfect. So I think the bigger you get by volume, the more of those conversations you will have. Even if going up and you're doing a better job, by total count, you're still having more conversations that might be hard.
For sure, for sure. Um, Bobby, are you a reader? Do you read books?
I do, but mostly fiction.
Fair enough. Give me two of your favorite books.
12?
Two of them.
Oh. I actually keep a spreadsheet because I forget most of the books that I read. But I do love the Red Rising trilogy. Not trilogy, it's like an anthology. It's probably 6 books, 6 or 7 books. Um, really like that series. Um, what did I read recently that I really liked? Um, Anvil of God was pretty good. I'm big on like the science fiction side. So
That was Handful of God.
Anvil, like ANV,
Handle of God.
Anvil, ANVIL.
ANVI. Anvil of God.
Yeah. Um, what else was really good? Oh, I read something like, I'll probably butcher it, but it's something like there's something really wrong with this box of doom or something, or this like little brown box of doom. It was something like that. It was very good.
Box of Doom. Interesting. Cool. What's one piece of advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Nah, I don't have anything like super profound. I mean,
Doesn't have to be. Whatever works for you.
I have always kind of been um indoctrinated is probably not the right word. I've always been pushed to like not give up. That's been like the primary kind of messaging, I guess, for me. not so much like you need to succeed or you need to make money or you need to whatever. It's been about like being persistent. And I don't know that there's anything more painful than than being a business owner in like a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's like a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of problems that you're constantly putting out, a lot of stress, but it's also like incredibly rewarding. So um, I think just like persistence and not giving up is the number one piece of advice there.
Fantastic. I hear that quite a bit from entrepreneurs on my show and and outside the show. I think people give up too quick, too fast.
It's a very natural instinct. It's incredibly painful to be like a business owner. Unless you're
100%.
doing like it all depends on your end goal. I think if your goal is to have you know, um, a business that generates whatever amount makes you comfortable, and your goal is just to not work a lot, and you're okay, kind of like quote unquote skating by. Like if that's your goal, you can have a business that's not that painful, but it's also not going to be a growth business.
Absolutely. I guess it depends on what works for you.
Yeah, it's all about goals, I
But
think.
typically, I've seen people like give up way too early. People, a lot of times, a lot of cases, they give up in their head before they even try. And they're like, I've tried a lot of things. Like, no, you didn't. You just thought about it for 3 days.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's because people like can see how what's ahead of them and how much work it's going to be, or if it's because people like have already gotten to the point where they're like over it and whatever. But I agree with you. People do tend to give up too early.
That's right. Beautiful. Bobby, is there a question that I should have asked you and I didn't? And it probably would have added value to people that are watching or listening.
Mm, no, I mean, I think there is one question around because I've asked it of myself and of the company, like when does it make sense to have a founder, or when does it make sense to be a solo starting your company or have a group, two or more people as founders? I think the answer to that largely depends on your pain tolerance. If you have a very high pain tolerance and your upside is higher, your risk is higher if you're a solo, right? Your risk is higher because you don't have somebody else to balance out like conversations or ideas or whatever. And if it's just your thoughts, you're going to have less diversity to pick from. So I think it's higher risk that it fails. But your upside's higher. You don't have to split it with anybody. So I think there is it is an interesting question. Should I start my business like alone, or should I have one or more co-founders?
How? What's the best way to go about that? So that because that's a great question.
What's the way to go about like deciding whether you should start by
Yeah.
I think it starts again from like pain tolerance, risk, and like what are you trying to get out of this whole thing? If all you're trying
What?
to Hmm?
Sorry, I was just going to say, what is the pain that they have to worry about and have tolerance for it?
If you have nobody to spread the burden, it's going to be more painful than if you do. So I think being a solo founder is more painful than having a group. Of course, there's a flip side to that argument, which is like having multiple founders creates scenarios where people disagree, and that's painful, right? And there can be like disagreements that can escalate into legal disagreements and like ownership disagreements and all those other
Right.
things. So this is all dependent. That analysis is dependent on you having a co-founder that I think you are balanced with. You can't both be the one who needs to get their way all the time. There,
Absolutely.
there probably does need to be like not a leader follower mindset, but like a willingness to compromise. It's like very overused. People saying having a business partner is like being in a marriage, but it's also incredibly true.
It is. Um, You got any tips on finding a good partner? Because that's a difficult job.
Yeah, no, I have no tips. I all I can say is the vast majority of people I know who've started businesses with co-founders have split up because the co-founders split up.
That's right. But I've seen some incredibly successful businesses who have two co-founders, like say Apple
And Google.
and yeah, Google, and then I mean, if it works, it's perfect. It works really well. But then I think the 80-20 rule applies to this too.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. While we're at it, one of the things that I've tried with one of the companies I'm involved with and I'm partner with, when we first started, we said, my partner said, let's write up an agreement. And I said, let's work together for like 3 or 4 months and see if we like each other. I don't want to get into an agreement then I have to get out of. Let's just see if we could work together. And
That's
it has worked out pretty well. So without getting an agreement, and then eventually, probably within the next few weeks, we're going to write up an agreement. But I'm glad I did that.
I think that's smart. It can become like, why spend the valuable time you have at the start of a business trying to iron out the legal kinks of what happens when your business is 8 figures when you don't even have like a product, a customer, whatever.
Yeah. And let's just see if we can even work together. Let's see if we like each other.
Right.
Let's see if we could get along. If we get along.
Yep.
100%. Bobby, this was a great conversation. Thank you. You shared a lot of good knowledge and wisdom. Where can people find you and reach out and learn more about your services?
Yeah. Thanks, Mustafa. You can go to meanpug.com. That's
How do you spell it?
mean, like not angry, mean, MEAN, and then PUG, like, the little dog, .com. You can also check us out on like social and everything like that. We've got a bi-weekly podcast, Hot Docket, which we release every other week. And that's just kind of like this, interviews with lawyers. And then we also have a special that we release once a month called Devil's Advocate, where it's a little bit more of a game. We bring on 2 lawyers, they debate. It's a good time. So keep an eye out for
That's
that.
on your podcast?
It's a separate podcast. So we've got Hot Docket, which is bi-weekly, and then we've got Devil's Advocate, which is once a month. Our first episode there, we have an episode of it as a special on Hot Docket, which you can check out. But we're going to be releasing our first like installment of it as a separate series, probably at the end of this month.
So you get 2 lawyers to kind of argue about something. You sit back, watch, and enjoy.
Basically, we have so it's called Devil's Advocate because we run these lawyers through a set of questions. The question might be as simple as like, pineapple pizza is delicious. Lawyer 1 says yes. Lawyer 2 says no. Okay, they disagree. That triggers the game. Now the guy who said no has to argue, yes, it is delicious. The guy who says yes has to argue, no, it's not delicious. Hence Devil's Advocate, because they have to take the side they don't believe in.
Is that a popular show out there?
We haven't released it yet. It's
it's coming. It's a brand new.
Yeah, our first episode's going to release this month. So we ran it as a test on our Hot Docket podcast. It was really fun. Everybody.
Oh man!
So now we've got it as a standalone show.
I would imagine the reels out of that show would really go viral on TikTok and Instagram.
Well, we've recorded, I think, 4 episodes at this point, and they're all very fun. So I think it's going to be a good one.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate it. Thanks, gang, for watching and listening. If you know a lawyer or a legal company that needs help with their marketing, tag them in the comments of the show or send them this link and have them reach out to Bobby. And if you have any questions for me or Bobby, just put them in the comments in the show and we'll do our best to get back to you ASAP. Thank you again for watching another episode of the Executive Hub. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini, and my guest, Bobby Steinbach. Thanks, Bobby, and you guys have yourself a fantastic day.
Thanks.
Bye now.